Hello, YouTube. I'm Vince White. I'm an employment attorney, and I don't know if you can tell, but I'm wearing surfers on my shirt today. And you might say, Vince, you look like garbage. And you're not wrong. You're not wrong. I probably shouldn't be wearing a shirt with surfers. I don't think it's the best look for me. But I'm wearing it today because most years, all of my attorneys would be in the office making the big final push at the end of the year, right? Getting all their cases settled. Now that's key, and I think it's valuable for people to know, especially people representing themselves, that at the end of the calendar year, which is also, importantly, the end of the fiscal year for many, many corporations, many employers, right? There is this giant push right before Thanksgiving to get as many cases settled as possible. Now, that push doesn't come from us. We will settle a case any given day if the price is right and our client is happy. That push comes from employers because they want to get the settlement as a write down or get it for tax purposes into this calendar year, into this fiscal year for their accounting purposes. And you'll see them playing games like payment on this date. We got to settle by this, trying to lock in advantages that their accountants have advised them of. And normally, in a non-COVID year, when all of our attorneys are around, everybody's working like lunatics in the lead up to Thanksgiving. Now, everybody's still working like a lunatic. In fact, I think it's even stronger, even more distinct this year, how hard we're working at this time of year. But they're just doing it spread out over the country because now we're not in New York anymore, right? We used to all work in New York, have half a floor in Manhattan, Midtown Manhattan, over on Lexington Avenue. Now we don't do that anymore. Now I have this office, and shutting down this office, and might have an office in New York, might not. We're trying to decide. There's not much reason for us to actually keep an office in New York anymore. New York is kind of weird. It's kind of weird these days. So I bring this up because it's important for the pro se people, the people representing themselves, to know this huge pressure that the employers are under. And if your settlement discussions have broken down over the course of the earlier part of the year, now is a really good time to revisit that with an eye on getting to the solution, right? And it's even more distinct this year, as I kind of mentioned, because Congress just completely wiped out the employee retention credit. They didn't say anything about it, but they had this program where if employers were retaining employees, they were getting money, often to the tune of six figures per quarter, or even millions per quarter, depending on the company. And that made them reluctant, in certain situations, to part ways with employees. Now, Congress kind of slid into their little package they just voted in to end that, because they don't really want to help. They don't really want to help small business, right? Because small business can't afford to lobby them. That's why. Now, why does that matter to you? Well, if you're a pro se litigant who's still working at a company, and that company had a reason prior to not get you off the books because they wanted you on the books, so they would potentially get this money from the employee retention credit, right? Employee retention, they then need to retain a certain amount of employees, so they don't want to part with employees, right? That's over. That reason for them to hold you, to keep you, to not part ways with you, to not pay you to exit is gone. It's gone. It doesn't exist anymore. So you have something going on. All the reasons employers had to hold on to employees are over, except, I guess, the fact that we're in a hiring crisis, right? People still need employees and have trouble getting the employees they need, but the financial, the fiscal reason, the tax governmental reason, the free money from the government reason is over, and they might have good tax reason to actually pay you out now, right? Fiscal year potentially ending. So the point of this video is, don't count settlement over. Routinely, we will be hundreds of thousands apart on a settlement. Hundreds of thousands apart. You get to this time of the year, get that call. Opposing counsel. hey, let's revisit this. I think, I know we were far apart, but let's have a conversation. You never know. You never know. Maybe something will work out. Yeah. Yeah. He's got an extra couple $100,000 in his pocket. That's what's going on. He or she has a bunch of money in their pocket because they know their client wants to pay this year to get it done, right? So opposing counsel's billed all she or he wants to bill. They've made their money off the case, which is, they get paid hourly. That's how it goes. They got to get paid. And now they've been paid. And now the client wants it settled because the tax consequences are beneficial for them to take it down this year. So they want to cut the check now, right? Happens all the time. Doesn't often happen for pro se litigants because a lot of times defense attorneys don't like calling you up. Defense attorneys are leery to call you up because they think, one, it's going to be a high conflict conversation. They hate dealing with you, and they treat you poorly, and often pro se litigants scream at defense counsel and say horrible things to them and threaten them and everything else. I know you wouldn't do that. It's just something that I know happens all the time. I've seen some of the communications. I've taken cases over where I'm like, why would you say that about opposing counsel's whatever, right? Like, this is years and years and years ago, and there's no way to identify the case. I once took over a case where the pro se litigant seemed to have subtly alluded to being willing to kill opposing counsel's dog, which was very upsetting for opposing counsel because opposing counsel wanted to know how the pro se litigant knew they had a dog. You can see how that'd be concerning. Now, I don't think had I known that going in, I would have taken that case, right? I was like, well, that was extremely aggressive. The case was good, right? The case was really good. It just, pro se litigant representing themselves had gotten a little out of hand in negotiations. Didn't really know that defense counsel's role is to cut checks, right? Defense counsel is not really there to beat you. Defense counsel is there to cut you a check, right? They want you to get paid. They just want to get paid first. Generally speaking, they don't usually fight cases to the end, in my experience. I'm going long here. But anyways, they're not going to call you. They're going to be afraid to call you. They just don't care. They just don't want to. They're going to go work on other cases with attorneys who they know or attorneys who they get along with, or at least attorneys who they will believe won't threaten them, right? So you might need to reach out. Reach out. Be reasonable. Go in and be like, listen, I know we've talked about this before, and settlement agreements, settlement talks fell apart, but it's worth revisiting. 'Tis the season, right? Well, 'tis the season. 'Tis the season. And I'm wearing this surfer shirt because historically, before my partner and I colluded to create Human Life, at the end of this season, when all the cases were settled and all the work was done, we just go to Mexico. Can't really do that anymore. Baby kind of takes care of that. But I'm wearing my surfer shirt anyways. Anyways, ask questions down below. I hope this helps someone. I hope it gets a case settled for someone who needs a little bit of a push to get this thing moving. Like and subscribe. It helps me to help more people just like you. And I will check the comments down below. Take care, everybody.